I never imagined my quiet daughter would find her voice through a Black Nanny song. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension. My heart raced. I stood in the doorway, watching her, my little girl, trembling. She had always been shy, hiding behind a wall of silence, afraid to let the world in. But that day, everything changed. It started when Alice, our new nanny, swept into our lives. She was a whirlwind of energy, her laughter echoing through our home like music. Her skin was the color of rich, dark chocolate, and her eyes sparkled with secrets of the world I could only glimpse from afar. She sang as she worked, deep soulful melodies that wrapped around us like a warm embrace. I watched from the kitchen, capturing fleeting moments of my daughter drawn to Alice's voice, mesmerized by the way it danced in the air. One night, I tiptoed into the living room, drawn by a haunting melody that slipped through the cracks of my worries. There they were, Alice, with her soothing presence, and my daughter, wide-eyed and enchanted. I felt a lump in my throat as I watched. My little girl, usually so quiet, was humming along, her voice barely a whisper. But it was there, emerging from her lips like a fragile butterfly breaking free from a cocoon. The room pulsed with the magic of the moment. Everything seemed possible. Then, Alice dropped a bombshell. She had a history, a past filled with music and battles fought in a world that rejected her. The stories she shared were like threads weaving through our lives, connecting us in ways I couldn't grasp. The deeper we delved into Alice's narrative, the more I felt our lives intertwining. Pain, joy, sacrifice, all nestled together. It was as if the universe conspired to bind us, but shadows loomed large. Whispers followed Alice, haunting rumors of a past that chilled me to the bone. The way people looked at her, half admiration, half suspicion. Friends exchanged uncertain glances, unsure of whether to embrace her or shun her. My heart ached for Alice, but more for my daughter. I wondered, could their bond withstand the weight of the world? Would my daughter find her voice only to lose herself in the turbulence that danced around Alice? And just as I thought I understood everything, Alice vanished one night, leaving behind only echoes of her songs, her laughter replaced by the suffocating silence that filled space where joy once thrived. My daughter sat on the floor, tears streaming down her face, each drop a testament to the sorrow rooted deep in her heart. "Mom," she whispered, "where did she go? Will she come back?" The question hung heavy in the air, unanswered, ripping open a chasm of uncertainty in all of us. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days felt longer without Alice's laughter, each morning stretching into an eternity as my heart ached for the joy that seems to have fled our home. My daughter retreated into herself, lost in a world of utter silence that not even I could penetrate. Her eyes dulled, the sparkle that had ignited after Alice's arrival now a distant memory. I could see how the absence of that nurturing spirit was like a storm cloud casting a shadow over her. I tried to fill the void, but my efforts felt feeble against the enormity of our loss. I played the old records Alice had left behind, but instead of stirring our spirits, they only highlighted the emptiness. The songs flowed like gentle rivers at first, then crashed down in waves of grief, drowning any remnants of hope. One afternoon, as I sat beside my daughter on her bed, I gathered the courage to speak of Alice. "Do you remember the song she used to sing?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. "The one about flying." Her lips quivered slightly, and I felt her pull away from me, as if the memory itself was too painful to hold. "She's gone, Mom," she mumbled, staring out the window where the world continued to turn, indifferent to our suffering. "She took all those songs with her." I swallowed hard, fighting against the tide of fear that threatened to sweep me away. "No, baby. The songs are still here in you. You can sing them. You can remember, but what if I forget? Her voice was small, a thread of innocence barely clinging to life. In that instant, I felt the weight of her vulnerability, and I feared I wouldn't be strong enough to carry us both. Determined, I decided to reach out to Alice. I hesitated before dialing the number she had shared with me. Would it still work? What if she didn't want to be found? My heart raced while listening to the phone ring, each sound echoing my doubt that it clicked. Hello. A voice answered, but it was not Alice's. This is Grace, Alice's friend. May I ask who's calling? I stammered out my introduction, the uncertainty still clinging to my words. Grace's tone shifted immediately upon realizing I was Alice's employer. Oh, Alice, she needed some time away. She'll be back, soon. I hoped that a wave of relief washed over me at the revelation, but it was quickly followed by concern. Is she okay? There was a pause, pregnant with unspoken words. She's struggling. We all have our demons, don't we? I could barely respond, my heart aching for the woman who had brought so much light into our lives. I kept thinking about my daughter. What would it take to bring them together again? Before I hung up, I asked if Grace would be willing to help me coordinate something, a way to remind Alice of the goodness that still existed in her life. The week dragged on as I tried to infuse our home with a sense of normalcy, organizing little moments that reminded my daughter of Alice. We painted together, creating a mural on her bedroom wall inspired by the colors of Alice's laughter. It was a vibrant mix of blues and yellows, savanna sunsets, and dusky horizons, and each brushstroke seemed to breathe life back into my daughter's spirit. As night fell, her eyes sparkled while she added the final touch, a silhouette of a figure, arms wide open, like Alice welcoming us back. The sight stirred something within me, and I couldn't help but think, would this be enough to draw Alice back? The next morning, I received a call that changed everything. Grace's voice was urgent, almost frantic. I need you to sit down. Alice has gotten herself into trouble. I think she's in danger. A chill coursed through my veins, unfurling the fear that had been tucked away in the corners of my mind. What do you mean? How? There are people looking for her, ones from her past, and they're not friendly. I think we need to act fast. If she goes back, she may not come out this time. Tears prickled at the corners of my eyes as I processed her words. My heart raced at the idea of Alice in peril, as if the woman who had opened my daughter's heart was now dangling on the edge of an abyss. What do we do? I whispered, panic rising within me. Meet me at the cafe on Elm Street. I have a plan. Oh. I knew at that moment I couldn't back down. For Alice. For my daughter. We were all woven together by dreams, and I had to protect their melody. Just as I hung up, I heard footsteps on the stairs. My daughter's hesitant approach filled the air. I braced myself, knowing that I had to tell her something. Mom, is everything okay? She stepped into the light of the hallway, worry etched into her face. Taking a deep breath, I looked into her eyes. No, sweetie, but I'm going to do everything I can to make it right. And as I clutched her hand tightly, a flicker of hope mingled with the fear this path might lead us back to the voice that we all needed to hear again. But still, the shadows loomed, and I wondered if we were prepared for what lay ahead. The cafe on Elm Street was buzzing with the muted chaos of clinking cups and hushed conversations. Each step I took toward the familiar corner table sent tremors of anxiety through me, and I forced myself to breathe deeply, steadying my racing heart. I arrived to find Grace already seated, her eyes darting around nervously, a shadow of worry layering her normally bright demeanor. Thanks for coming, she said, her voice low and urgent. I wasn't sure if you would. Of course I would, I replied, desperate to project stability. No matter what circle of hell Alice might be entangled in, I had to be her anchor. I had to be the one to rove through the darkness to pull her back. Hey, race what I know, Grace continued, leaning closer as she unfolded a small map from her bag. Alice has gotten mixed up with some people who don't just want to talk. They feel betrayed, and it's no secret that she left her old life behind. They might think it's more convenient to silence her. My heart constricted painfully at each word. How had Alice, this whimsical and vibrant woman, found herself facing such peril? Is there a safe place for her? Some way we can reach her? My voice was trembling, moments away from breaking. Grace hesitated, the weight of her thoughts pressing in on her. There's a friend of Minnie, a former social worker. She has connections to shelters that could protect Alice if we can just get her there. We were both aware that coaxing Alice to safety would require far more finesse. She'd need to trust us again, something that seemed almost insurmountable given her struggle with abandonment. But will she come back? What if she's afraid of being dragged back into her old life? I dared to voice a fear that had gripped me since the moment I learned of her troubles. She will, Grace said, popping her bright eyes back to mine, determination lighting them up. We just have to remind her of who she is beyond that life. She can't forget that light, and we can't let her. The conversation shifted between frenetic planning and moments of stillness, where both of us allowed the weight of our vulnerability to linger in the air. We shared stories of Alice, laughing softly when we recalled the time she painted her fingernails rainbow colors and insisted on doing our hair, how my daughter had giggled in glee and how Alice had pretended to be a fairy spreading magic in our home, but the laughter hung like a delicate thread, threatening to snap under the mounting dread surrounding Alice's fate. As we left the cafe, I felt a glimmer of hope spark deep inside, a hope built on shared memories, resilience, and the belief that Alice would respond to our call. I would venture into her darkness, and maybe somewhere along that journey, I would find my own strength again. Yet, as I made my way back home, walking the familiar path through the park, an unsettling weight settled over me. I noticed a figure at the far end of the pathway. He stood there, watching me intently, his face hidden beneath a cap. I tried to shake off the feeling of being watched, quickening my pace, but as I passed a row of trees, the figure stepped forward. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice deep and gravelly, but laced with an unsettling familiarity. "Can I have a word?" My heart dropped. I hesitated, scanning the immediate area, searching for escape routes. "I'm not interested," I said, forcing confidence into my voice, but my feet stayed rooted in place. "It's about Alice," he continued, taking a step closer. "She needs you. And it's not just about her. You're in danger too." The air thickened around me, my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream but instead stood frozen, caught between fear for Alice and the realization that this man knew too much for comfort. "What do you know about her?" he smirked, a flicker of menace dancing behind his eyes. "More than you think. But if you're really going to save her, you need to know the risks involved. The truth about her past. It's darker than you can imagine." With each excruciating moment, I realized that this man held a piece of the puzzle I had yet to confront. He knew secrets I had only glimpsed in shadows. Then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he turned and faded back into the tangled foliage of the park, leaving me trembling and alone, questions spiraling in my mind and fear curling tightly around my heart. What dark truth lay in Alice's past that threatened to ensnare all of us? I needed answers before I could take the next step, and the shadows were closing in fast. The night unfurled like a dark cloak, heavy with unspoken fears and unanswered questions, as I made my way home. My breath came in shallow bursts, each stride echoing the unease churning within me. Thoughts of that man's warning echoed like a relentless drumbeat. Alice's past was a landscape I had yet to traverse, riddled with treacherous terrain, and I stood at the precipice, unsure of how to proceed. Once inside, I locked the door, turning the key with a sense of finality. As the quiet enveloped me, I sank onto the worn-out couch, the fabric still warm from the sun earlier that day. The walls of the room, adorned with family photos and painted memories, seemed to tighten around me, reminding me of all the love that filled this space, love that now felt inadequate against the storm brewing outside. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling as I scrolled for Alice's number, but with each passing second, doubt gnawed at me. What if she didn't want to hear from me? What if my reach was just one more tether binding her to her old life? I didn't want to be another source of pain or betrayal for her. I wanted to delve into the depths of her heart, unearth the truths that could save her, but how could I bridge that divide? With frustration, I tossed the phone onto the coffee table. It rang against the wood with a hollow sound, much like the echo in my chest. I turned on the TV, hoping for a distraction, but the flickering images blurred together, unable to pull my mind from the weight of the moment. Eventually, I stood up and moved around the house, as if searching for clarity in the physical space. My fingers danced lightly over the curtain fabrics, the playthings of memories. I stumbled upon a box of Alice's old belongings, the trinkets she collected over the years, seashells from our beach trips, beads from failed crafting attempts, a faded photograph of her with her first best friend. It was a semblance of comfort, yet it only deepened the ache of her absence. The doorbell rang, slicing through the stillness of the house. I hesitated and glanced at the clock. It was late. Who could it be? Trepidation pulled at my heart as I approached the door, each creak of the floorboard amplifying my anxiety. Peering through the peephole, I caught sight of someone I didn't recognize, but the urgency in their posture ignited an instinctual need to open the door. "Can I help you?" I asked cautiously, pulling the door ajar just enough to speak that I am sorry for coming by unannounced, but I was told you're looking for Alice. The young woman wore a worn leather jacket, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, and her eyes glinted with a fierce determination. I stammered, the weight of her question unspooling a thread of hope deep within me. "Can we talk? It's important." A rush of uncertainty washed over me, but the desperation clawing at my chest overshadowed it. I stepped aside, allowing her entry, the door closing behind us with a soft thud. "Ava," she said, her gaze scanning the room with quick intensity before settling back on me. "I used to work with Alice. I know what she's going through, what she's afraid of." Seated across from each other, the tension in the room broke slightly as I found myself leaning forward, hanging on to her words. "What do you know? Is there a way to reach her?" Ava inhaled deeply, exhaling the sound of despair. "She's trapped in a web of their making, but there's something deeper. She believes she deserves this. It's a cycle she's been fighting against for so long. You must help her see that she is not this version of herself she hides behind." Within her words was a flicker of something, solidarity, perhaps, or a shared understanding of Alice's fight. I felt my heart swell, but before I could voice my rising hope, Ava continued, "But there's something you need to know. There's a reason Alice left her past behind. A darkness seeks her, one she can't outrun alone." "Darkness?" My pulse quickened with fear. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, the truth felt like a looming shadow, threatening to engulf the small spark of resolve I had managed to kindle. "I don't want to scare you, but Alice isn't just running from old Tisha's being hunted. It's why she's isolated herself. This isn't just a matter of guilt or shame, it's survival." A chill swept through me, hardening the hope I had built through the conversation. "What do you know about who's after her?" Ava hesitated, her fingers fidgeting with the zipper of her jacket. "All I can say is, if they find her before you do, it won't just be her life hanging in the balance. They've made it very clear there will be consequences for anyone involved." The weight of her words settled in the pit of my stomach, a knot of dread that threatened to spill over. Yet, as I looked into Ava's eyes, searching for a glimmer of reassurance, she leaned closer, whispering, "But maybe you can turn this fear into strength. If you reach out to her, if she trusts you, there's a chance to pull her back from the edge. You can't let the darkness win." At that moment, I knew this quiet home, this sanctuary we had built, was no longer a place of safety. The stakes had risen higher than I could have ever imagined, and I was no longer just fighting for Alice, I was fighting for all of us. But just as I opened my mouth to ask the next question, my phone buzzed violently across the table, the screen illuminating with an unknown number. I glanced at Ava, a shared understanding passing between us. The darkness wasn't just a distant threat, it was already here, inching closer, and whatever answer lay on the other end of that call could change everything. That I picked up the phone, heart racing, and pressed the answer button. "Hello." But what came next was a voice I never expected. "It's me, Alice. You need to listen carefully." With those words, the chasm of uncertainty deepened, and I felt the ground shift beneath me as I braced against the weight of the truth that was about to unravel. The air crackled with tension as I held my breath, clutching the phone tightly as if it could shield me from the storm of emotions swirling inside. Alice's voice crackled through the linea, soft tremor layered with fear that cut straight to my core. I don't have much time, she whispered. You have to believe me. They're coming for me. The words hit me like ice water, shocking me into a reality that had spun out of control. Who, Alice? Who is coming for you? I could hear her sharp inhale, a sound filled with the weight of memories that I couldn't yet grasp. It's complicated. You have to understand, they're not just after me for what I did or didn't do. It's bigger than that. Just tell me where you are. We can get you out. We can fight this together. My heart raced, the anticipation of her safety warring with the panic tightening my throat. I can't. You don't understand. If I let you help me, her voice broke, and I felt the chasm between us deepen, the bridge of love drawn taut and trembling. I don't want you to get hurt. I can't let that happen. A longing ache spread through my chest, the yearning for her to see how important she was, how vital it was for me to stand by her side. Alice, please. You're not alone in this. You never were. Just trust me, I'll do anything. Suddenly, there was a clatter on the other end, followed by strained voices, muffled and threatening. My heart leaped into my throat, each second stretching into eternity. Alice? I called, desperation lacing my voice. Don't come here. You have to stay away. She screamed just before the line abruptly went dead, leaving me with a suffocating silence and an empty sense of dread. I dropped the phone onto the table, feeling the world tilt underfoot. Ava's wide eyes met mine, a shared alarm sparking between us, pulling us out of our personal worries. What happened? She demanded, her voice firm and commanding, anchoring me in the chaos. Alice, she's in trouble. I think they know where she is, and they're coming after her, I stammered, fighting the urge to crumble under the weight of helplessness. Ava's gaze sharpened, a determination igniting within her. We need to act fast. You need to get her to a safe place. The gravity of her words sunk in, unfurling a flurry of thoughts. But how? I don't even know where she is. Listen, I have a friend in the area, someone who has connections. He knows things, especially about what Alice is caught up in. If we don't act now, she might not have another chance. As I absorbed her words, a flicker of hope sparkled amidst the despair. Can you reach out to him? Ava nodded, depositing her phone on the coffee table. Yes, but first, we need to make sure you're prepared to help her when we find her. It's more than just finding Alice, it's about what we need to face together. The urgency in her voice spurred me into action, and I followed her lead. Ava rummaged through my kitchen drawers, pulling out supplies, her movements fluid despite the gravity of the situation. As she worked, I couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability, standing on the precipice of something I couldn't yet see as hope. Do you think she's safe? I asked, the question slipping from my lips before I could stop it. Ava paused mid-motion, turning to me with a solemn expression, the flickering candlelight illuminating the unshed tears threatening to spill from her eyes. For now, but you need to prepare yourself. The darkness she's running from is real. It's not just emotional, it has teeth, and it hunts, just like those who seek her. With each word, the heaviness in my chest expanded, replaced with a fire-igniting determination. I had to do this for her. I had to reach Alice, but there was no guarantee that navigating those dark waters wouldn't drag me into the depths as well. We finished assembling what felt like a hastily prepared survival kit, though I knew that no amount of supplies could arm me against the possibilities I feared. Thoughts of Alice flooded my mind, each one a whisper of encouragement, a call to action. As we prepped, a gentle urging grew inside me. If Alice could find her voice through the turmoil, so could I. I'd fight, locked in tight with the understanding that nothing in this world came without a price. Just as we settled into the tense silence, Ava's phone rang, piercing the taut atmosphere. She answered quickly, her brow arching as she listened intently. I watched her face shift from concern to wide-eyed fear. "I'll be right there," was all she said before hanging up abruptly. "What is it?" I asked, my heart racing with anxiety. "Something's happened. We can't stay here. I'll explain on the way." I barely processed her words before we dashed out the door, the chill of the night air slapping us awake, a stinging reminder of the urgency we faced that we hopped into her weathered car, the engine thrumming with a resolve that matched my racing heart. As she tore down the road, I stole glances out the window, watching the familiar streets flash by, each one tinged with memories of our shared life. But now those streets felt like they were slipping away, leaving behind a past that no longer mattered as we barreled toward an uncertain future. Then, out of nowhere, Ava's phone buzzed incessantly in her lap. She snatched it up, glancing at the screen and grimacing. "Not now," she muttered. But something inside urged her to look. She swiped the screen, her breath hitching as the color drained from her face. Without a word, she turned to me, her voice shaking as she shared the cold truth that felt like ice slicing through my veins. "It's them," she breathed. "They know we're coming." A realization crashed over me as layers of fear unfurled. We weren't just racing against time to save Alice anymore, we had now become prey in the game of darkness, a darker tide sweeping over us as we steadied ourselves for the fight ahead. And with that unsettling thought, I understood, in that moment of excruciating clarity, that this wasn't just about rescuing Alice. It was about finding courage, identity, and strength in the face of a looming darkness that sought not just to take lives, but to obliterate the very essence of who we were. The road stretched before us, winding like a serpent through the fabric of the night. The weight of our mission settled heavier on my shoulders, each bump against the asphalt a reminder of the danger lurking just out of sight. I glanced at Ava, her knuckles white against the steering wheel, her jaw set in determination, and felt a pang of admiration mixed with fear. "Ava, what do we do now?" My voice trembled, echoing the unease that tinged the air around us. "We need to get to the location he mentioned before it's too late." "We have to keep moving," she answered tersely, her focus unwavering. The car's headlights sliced through the dark like a beacon, but the shadows seemed to wrap themselves around us tighter with every passing mile. In my mind, the sound of Alice's frantic voice replayed endlessly, climbing to a crescendo of despair that gnawed at my resolve. What were we walking into? Even if we found her, what horrors awaited us? A shiver ran down my spine as Ava's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, clenching her fists momentarily before tossing it into her bag, choosing silence over further dread. It was clear that whatever awaited on the other end of that line would only compound our fear. "Stay focused," she urged, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes, as she glanced toward me briefly. "Right," I replied, trying to summon the brave face I knew she needed. Yet, deep down, an icy tendril of doubt crept in. What if we weren't strong enough? What if we lost her forever, and the darkness swallowed us whole? Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of movement ahead, shadows dancing on the sides of the road as they crept toward us, fleeting and bold. My heart raced as I pointed. "Did you see that?" Ava leaned forward, her brow furrowing deeper as she squinted into the night. "What do you mean?" "Where?" "Over there." I gestured again, a knot of dread forming like a heavy stone in my chest. "It was just there by that tree." "Just trees playing tricks on your mind," she shot back, though the edge of uncertainty dripped into her tone. Her grip tightened more firmly on the wheel, the decisions weighing on her heavily, but I couldn't shake the feeling. "No, Ava," her phone buzzed again, drowning my words. This time, she swiped it up, her expressions twisting with emotion as she read the message. "Damn it, it's a warning. They know we're close. Someone tipped them off." My breath hitched as all the air seemed to seep from the car. "We're running out of time. What do they want from us?" "It's not us they want," she snapped, her eyes flashing with frustration. "It's Alice. They think if they can keep her away from us, she'll fall deeper into their grip." A truth hung like a heavy fog, suffocating and slow. They weren't just hunting Alice, they wanted to extinguish every ounce of light she carried. We approached a narrow, dimly lit road, the kind that twisted into obscurity, leading us deeper into uncharted territory. Ava slowed as she considered our next move, the uncertainty heavy enough to crack under pressure. "I think we need to stop here and reassess," she finally said, exhaling deeply. "No. We can't." I blurted, alarm bursting forth. What if we're moments away from her? We don't even know if this is the right place. Disbelief crept into her voice, yet I could see that doubt gnawed at her too. But then, unexpectedly, she turned and captured my gaze, searching for clarity in the depths of my uncertainty. Tell me where Alice is, and I promise I'll go wherever you lead. A flicker of hope ignited, illuminating the dark corners of my heart. We need to follow the music, I blurted out, recalling the last time I heard Alice when she spoke of melodies that soothed her troubled soul, a hint of the power she carried within. Music? She raised an eyebrow, a fresh wave of confusion washing over her. Yes. In the chaos, she finds refuge in it. It's her strength. If we can find a place where she feels safe enough to let it out, maybe we can reach her. And where's that? Her voice softened, yet concern still lingered. The park, I whispered, the memory flashing bright within me. That place where she used to sing under the old oak tree with the deep roots where the world felt gentle. If there's any chance she's there, it's now, or never. As I spoke, Ava's features shifted, a blending of skepticism and hope. She pursed her lips, running calculations behind her bright eyes. All right. I trust you. But it's a gamble. The air between us felt charged, like the moment before a storm. We accelerated once more, the trees whizzing past in a blur of shadows and mere outlines. Hope clung to me like a life raft, buoying my spirits as we forged ahead into the embrace of night, but as we reached the outskirts of the park, a strange unease settled, creeping down my spine like icicles forming in winter's breath. There, in the dark, heard a whisper of my past. A fleeting shadow darted just out of sight, pulling me deeper into the memories long buried, stirring something primal within. Hold on, I said, my voice wavering against the uncertainty, every heartstring within me thrumming with the hope I had clung to for far too long. We need to be careful. As we slowed down, dread coiled tightly around us, and for a moment, the world quieted. But just as I took a breath, a figure emerged from the trees, a silhouette bent against the moonlight, familiar yet terrifyingly distant. Is that? Before I could finish, the figure stepped into the light, an all too familiar face staring back Alice. But her eyes, once filled with joy, now brimmed with tears, and the darkness behind her seemed to stretch infinitely. Alice! I shouted, but an unexpected scream pierced through the air, a panicked, hopeless scream as she was yanked backward, disappearing like mist into the shadows. No! I lunged for the door, my heart pounding with urgency, but Ava gripped my arm. Wait! We can't just rush into that. But before I could argue, another voice cracked through, chilling the very marrow in my bones. Come back, little songbird, it whispered, a serpent's hiss that only spelled impending despair. Reality blurred as the twisted truth came crashing down. This was no illusion, and the game we were caught in was more perilous than we'd ever imagined. Alice was caught in a web much larger than herself, a song of darkness entangled in threads of desperation, and if we didn't step forth, she might never find her voice again. Terror surged through my veins, electrifying yet paralyzing. We were not alone in our pursuit. Dark forces awaited us, feeding on the very essence of what we sought to save. But then, just as we readied ourselves for what may lay ahead, a flood of sirens echoed in the distance, blurring the lines between danger and salvation as they approached, both a warning and a promise. And with it, I realized, our fight was only just beginning. Time slowed as the blaring sirens drew closer, the wail echoing in my ears and merging with the panic gripping my heart. I turned to Ava, her face a canvas of unyielding resolve despite the uncertainty painting my own. We can't stay here, she said, her voice low but urgent. If Alice is in trouble, those sirens won't save her, they'll just bring more attention to us. I nodded, the weight of her words grounding me in reality, but the thought of losing Alice again sent a stab of fear slicing through me. But we can't leave without her. I pleaded, desperation flooding my tone. That we won't, Ava assured me, her grip on my arm steadying me through the tumult of my thoughts. Well, find her. Let's park the car and approach the park on foot. We'll need the element of surprise. The sirens blared ever closer, the world shifting around us as I forced my legs to obey. I climbed out of the car. The night air hit me like a bucket of ice, but it slammed into the fiery resolve within. Together, we dashed into the shadows of the trees, moving stealthily toward the heart of the park where Alice had once found solace, where her laughter echoed, mingling with the rustling leaves. As we navigated through the darkness, glimmers of memories flared in the back of my mind, the countless afternoons spent in this very park, the music drifting from her lips, the innocence of her youth celebrated beneath that old oak tree. I could almost hear her voice rising into the night, a crystal note floating on the wind, beckoning me forth. "Stay close," Ava whispered, her eyes scanning the surroundings with the vigilance of a hawk. A chill swept through the air, sharpening the tension between us, thickening it into something almost palpable. Crouched low, we began to inch our way deeper into the park, where tended paths deteriorated into overgrown weeds and wildflower blooms whispered secrets long forgotten. Then, we heard a soft, delicate sound, a thread of music weaving its way through the darkness. My heart soared even as my skin prickled with fear. Was it her? Alice. I called desperately, rolling her name on my tongue like a prayer. The music faltered, and then came the voice, haunting and tremulous. "Help me, someone, please." It sent shivers down my spine. This was not the confident melody I remembered, this was a cry lost to desperation. I exchanged a glance with Ava, her determination amplifying my own fear. We pressed forward, hearts racing and breath quickening, following the notes like moths to a flame, hoping they would lead us to Alice. That we rounded a bend in the path, and the old oak rose before us, its gnarled branches sprawling into the sky like an ancient sentinel. Beneath it, the moonlight flickered, but it also revealed twisted figures huddled in a circle, shrouded in darkness, their presence stifling the air around us. "Alice?" I dared to call again, but the figures turned abruptly, and I froze in place. Shadows stretched from their bodies, consuming all light. Then, one of them stepped forward, his features obscured, a malicious smile creeping across his face. "Ah, the mother comes to save her little songbird," he taunted, voice smooth like silk yet laced with venom. "But she's not quite free yet, what do you want?" I managed, my heart pounding like a war drum. "To silence her voice, of course," he replied, gesturing to the figure crumpled at the foot of the oak. "The music, you see, it's far too powerful. We have to extinguish it before it grows too loud. No. I screamed, lunging toward Alice's form, but Ava held me back, her eyes wide with alarm as she took in the scene. "Stay calm," she hissed, something fierce igniting in her safety-orientated instincts. "But we have to save her," I cried, the desperation clawing its way up my throat. Suddenly, the figure at the foot of the tree stirred. Alice sat up, her hair cascading wildly around her face, tears glimmering in the moonlight. "Mom, don't!" she gasped, her voice strained, caught in a fragile balance between fear and resolve. "Stay where you are," the cruel man shouted, taking a step toward her, and as he did, I felt a primal instinct rise within me. "Let her go," I shouted, stepping forward despite Ava's warning grip. But another figure lurked just behind the leader, stepping into the moonlight, a familiar silhouette, one I'd never expected to see again. "No," I gasped, my heart plummeting. "Ella," I whispered, the name slipping from my lips like a spell. Her eyes locked onto mine, despair written all over her face. "It's not safe. You shouldn't be here." "What do you mean? Are you with them?" A flicker of pain crossed her features, and Alice quickly exclaimed, "Stop. Don't trust them." Before I could process the rush of conflicting emotions, the leader chuckled darkly. "See? Even her own flesh and blood can't save her now." Darkness coiled tighter around us, anticipation hanging in the air as everything around me spun in chaotic disarray. Heart racing, I understood then that the battle was not just for Alice's voice, but for the very fiber of our collective past, our choices, our fears, and the secrets spun through the threads of our tangled lives. And suddenly, as I peered through the shadows cloaking this scene, a flicker of opportunity swirled in the air among the impending chaos. If Ella stood before us, there was hope in the struggle, a chance for redemption, either for myself or the faint melody of Alice captured in the throes of darkness. But as I took a step closer, the figure's mocking laugh echoed like thunder, shattering the moments into fragments, hinting at new complicity unveiled. One thing cut deep under all the tension: someone was orchestrating these, a puppet master hidden within the chaos, waiting to reveal their hand. Get ready, girls. The real game is just beginning. The chill in the air intensified as the heart of the park pulsed with unspoken danger. The shadows formed a wall around us, taunting our vulnerability. My eyes darted between Alice, whose spirit flickered like a candle in an unraveling storm, and Ella, whose stance offered more questions than answers. There, at the edge of the darkness, I could sense the sinister energy swirling, hungry and expectant. Alice. I shouted again, my voice reverberating off the ancient trees that bore witness to this unfolding nightmare. We're here for you, Alice, listen to me. Ella rushed forward, her voice almost pleading, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and desperation. You have to trust me. I'm not with them, I swear, she said, pointing to the dark figures, her body shaking with emotion. I don't know what they want, but they're dangerous. A part of me wanted to believe her, this sister so long gone from our lives who had always been a part of my heart, a ghost haunting my memories. But trust was a fragile shield in this moment, and I needed more than words. The leader's voice sliced through the tension, mocking my hesitation. Look at how quickly they turn on one another, how easy it is to break the bond of blood. He gestured dismissively, and the shadows around him twitched, as if alive and eager to consume us. Alice, focus on my voice. I urged, stepping closer despite Ava's warning grip tightening around my arm. You have to fight this. You're stronger than they are. Remember the stories we used to sing together. The desperation in my words seemed to pierce through the fog of fear enveloping Alice. Mom, it hurts, she choked out, tears streaming down her cheeks. I can't fight anymore. Don't say that. You have to, I pressed, struggling to keep my voice steady. You hold the music inside you. It's what kept us going all those years, what kept us alive. That glimmer of rebellion ignited within her. I could see it flicker in her eyes, mingling with pain. It was as if the mention of music had crackled like static in the air, weaving through the darkness. She inhaled deeply, and for a moment, the oppressive silence shattered against the backdrop of a single note, a desperate, trembling melody rising from her lips. Stop her. The leader bellowed, his voice filled with rage, but it was too late. The notes danced through the trees, summoning memories that intertwined with Alice's voice, echoes of laughter, of joy, of the free-spirited child she once was. No. He roared again, stepping closer to Alice, ready to extinguish the light she was beginning to exude. Ella. I yelled, my voice trembling with urgency. What do we do? I don't know, she whispered, each word heavy with regret. But we have to protect her. Together, with that unspoken bond forged anew, Ella and I took a step side by side, determination coursing through us like a rush of adrenaline. As we shielded Alice, I could feel a flicker of hope stirring within the chaos, but it was short-lived. The men's figures shifted, and more of them emerged, like shadows woken from the depths of nightmares. Your melody ends here, their leader snarled, reaching out with a dark intention that threatened to engulf us. But right on the cusp of despair, something unexpected happened. Ava, who had been silently observing, stepped forward with a blaze of defiance. Not while I'm here, she declared, her voice steady and fierce as she pulled something from her pocket, a small glint of metal reflecting the moonlight. Ava, no. I shouted, unsure of what she planned to do. It's the only way, she replied, eyes fierce as she drew what appeared to be a small dagger, edged with symbols I had long forgotten. If we can't bring the fight to them, we've got to give Alice the chance to escape. Do you know what you're risking? Ella gasped, taken aback by her bravery. Ava locked eyes with her. We all have something to fight for. I won't let them take her. As she advanced toward the leader, determination crackling in the air around us, the shadows quivered, seeming to retreat slightly from her fierce resolve. In that furious moment, a fracture formed within. Their ranks, a crack where chaos met possibility, and now. Ava shouted, and that word exploded with an urgency almost primal. Alice's voice crescendoed, wrapping around us in a fierce embrace as her melody flourished, breathing strength into our collective fight. We surged forward, a tangled tapestry of resolve woven from desperation and hope. But then, the leader's laughter cascaded through the night air, icy and unyielding, chilling our hearts with the knowledge of a truth too terrible to confront. You think you can stop this? You're overlooking one crucial detail, and just as his words hung heavy in the air like the ominous promise of what was to come, I felt the weight of darkness wrapping around us again, more potent and suffocating than before, and something shifted behind me, a sudden rush of wind, bringing with it an unsettling roar, like the beginning of a storm that I turned, panic igniting within me as I realized there was no escape. The shadows were rising, consuming the space between us and the pathway to Alice's freedom. Time slowed, and the music faltered, caught between the familiar cries of hope and the encroaching dread. In that moment of crushing despair, a realization struck me. We weren't just fighting for Alice's voice, we were battling ourselves, the echoes of our past choices pulling us down into the depths of this impending darkness, and as I faced the encroaching tide of shadows, a sudden, terrible truth dawned upon me, a truth threatening to tear apart everything I thought I understood. Ella's desperate plea hung fresh in the air, now mingling with the ghostly shadows of sorrow surrounding us. If we survived this night, it would not just be Alice who found her voice. We would all have to confront our own haunting melodies, or we could lose each other once more. And as the clash began, I couldn't help but wonder, would our voices be enough to resonate against the silence, or had we walked too far into the black? The night felt as if it were pressing in from all sides, shadows swelling like a tide ready to swallow us whole. With each passing moment, the dark figures tightened their circling grip, their eyes glinting with malice as they inched closer to Alice, the music barely holding the abyss at bay. "Don't stop, Alice. Please," I begged, straining against the weight of despair. Ella's hand clenched mine, a small gesture of solidarity amidst the chaos, her face contorted with fear and determination. Together, we shared this trembling moment, harboring flickers of hope that refused to be extinguished. The leader of the shadows scoffed, his twisted smile reflecting a deep-seated amusement at our futile struggle. "Such bravery," he jeered, stepping forward with a fluidity that mirrored the dark energy coiling around him. "But what you fail to understand is that her voice isn't the only thing at stake here." A chill raced down my spine as he spoke, an instinctive dread washing over me. The shadows shifted, a more ominous depth revealed within their pitch-black embrace. Suddenly, I remembered something from childhood, an old nursery rhyme about shadows and light, an echo of the past that felt all too relevant now. "Shadows can only exist where there is light," I muttered, almost to myself, hoping against hope that these familiar words might hold some form of truth. In the cacophony of emotion enveloping us, I clung tightly to that thread of understanding, "Alice." I called again, halting all thought of fear, channeling every ounce of love I had for her. "You are our light. You have always been our light. Don't let them take that away from you," she faltered, a brief flicker of hesitation rolling across her features, pulling at her lingering determination. "But what if I'm too weak?" Her voice, once vibrant, trembled with doubt, shadowed by fear and exhaustion. Before I could respond, a gust of wind surged through the clearing, rustling the leaves and plunging us deeper into the fray. Ava, spearheading our last line of defense, moved with fierce precision, gripping the dagger with a resolve that emanated from her very core. "Alice, believe. You are as strong as the songs we sang together. You will not be just a melody, you will be the chorus that drowns out this darkness." Ava's words flowed like a current, igniting the air with a flicker of warmth amidst the encroaching chill. The shadows recoiled slightly at Ava's challenge, uncertainty threading through their ranks. In that decisive moment, I sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a collective pause. It was almost as if Alice's hesitance was mirrored by the darkness, a moment of doubt that could tip the scales in our favor. Gathering strength, I pressed closer to Alice, kneeling beside her in the grass damp with twilight's heavy dew. "Look at me, Alice. You have to fight for yourself. For us," I implored, my heart limping under the weight of everything I had lost and everything I feared losing once more. And then, stunningly, Alice let her eyes close, drawing a steadying breath deep into her core. I don't want to let go," she whispered, her voice quaking in the chilled air, lingering on the verge of breaking. "Then don't." I cupped her face with trembling hands, a beacon of unwavering support. "You are loved, and you are not alone. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself." With every ounce of my being, I felt her spirit rise within her, clashing with the shadows that longed to claim her. I caught a glimpse of Alice's essence, her laughter, her sincerity, her love twinkling like stars behind her closed eyelids. The melody continued to swell from her lips, this time tinged with a haunting beauty born of the fight. The shadows writhed, drawn closer but held at bay. This offered us a window, a moment of momentum that could be seized. "Ella!" I called, "Join her. Your voice belongs to her as much as it belongs to you." Ella hesitated only for a heartbeat before stepping forward, joining the growing chorus that enveloped us all. Her voice resonated, merging with Alice's like intertwining vines, a harmony born of a sisterhood that was forged from ashes and tears. The shadows, once oppressive, now shrank back, in instinctive fear permeating their ranks. The leader's face contorted in rage, his eyes blazing as he fought against the surge of melodic power threatening to drown him out. "Fools!" he screamed, his voice imbued with desperation. "You think this petty chorus can shatter the darkness," but as Alice and Ella's voices intertwined, something remarkable began to happen. The shadows around us, once so formidable, started to lose their grip, flickering like dying embers. It felt as though we were tapping into something ancient, a power bound to the very fabric of our lives, to the love that transcended fear. Just as the tide began to turn in our favor, a sudden change swept through the air, and the song reached its crescendo. I felt an energy burst for the wave that threatened to envelop us yet again. Then, like a dam breaking beneath the pressure, that same wind returned, more fierce this time, whirling around us violently. The harmony of our voices splintered, shredded by an unseen force, cutting between us with an unforgiving intensity. Above the tumultuous chaos, a deafening roar rang out. It was not just the shadows, the darkness pulsed back, retaliating with a speed and ferocity that seemed almost sentient. I turned to Alice, her eyes reflecting the chaos surrounding us, filled with fear and uncertainty. "Alice. Fight. We're almost there." But even as I urged her onward, I felt something shift within me, a reminder of the cost for every moment we stood our ground. Dread nudged at my gut. As I searched Alice's face, a new panic rose within me. The night was more than just shadow and light, it was riddled with secrets, and something deeper threatened to surface. With shaken resolve, I recalled a fragmented memory, a whispered conversation about origins I had long forgotten, secrets tied to our family, stirring envy and darkness that coursed through generations. What if this darkness was not just a foe but a reflection of something far deeper, something that pointed back to us? And as the shadows writhed and danced, an unsettling thought struck, a chilling possibility escaped my lips like a choked gasp. Is there something of ours binding us to them? The question hung in the air between us, echoing against the tumult of melody and shadows. Before I could seek answers, the shadows surged forward once more, crashing upon us with renewed force. Instinctively, I reached for Alice, desperation clawing at my heart, but I could see it in her eyes. She too felt the weight of unspooled truths. In that moment, I understood every silence we had endured had led to this. Every broken song. Every moment of hesitation. Would we unravel from within before we claimed our voices once more, or would darkness irrevocably shatter our fragile bond? No hate ever lay ahead, we hadn't come this far to surrender. And as I locked eyes with Alice, the embers of our fight igniting anew, I felt a renewed resolve coursing through my very veins. But the shadows would be relentless, and as the night screamed and rallied against us, I knew that the worst was yet to come. The storm of shadows crashed against us like waves against a crumbling cliff, relentless and unforgiving. The music trembled in the air, fighting to push back the darkness that threatened to swallow us whole. I grasped Alice's hands tighter, feeling the warmth of her spirit flicker against the bitter cold that surrounded us. Remember when we danced in the kitchen? I cried out, my voice rising above the chaos. You twirled with that blue scarf, weaving a tapestry of laughter. Sing, Alice. Let everything be your voice again. With that encouragement, I could almost see her spirit shimmer, the essence of who she was breaking through the veil of fear that had held her captive. Every note, every song we created together, it still lives in you. Don't you dare let them take it away. A flicker ignited behind her eyes, a spark of defiance, a hint of the fierce joy that was buried beneath the weight of loss. In that moment, the air crackled with electricity as she found her footing once again, her voice breaking the fragile silence and soaring into the night. As Alice sang, the melody grew bolder, the notes resonating through the trees like fireflies lighting up the dark. Ella, with unwavering conviction, joined in, harmonizing effortlessly, wrapping us all in the protective warmth of their unity. The shadows lurched, twisting and writhing as if wounded by this newfound light. Desperation filled the leader's eyes, the darkness around us beginning to churn faster, rabid and wild, as if the very fabric of reality strained against our collective resolve. Suddenly, I felt the wind change, sharp as glass, cutting through the air between us. A scream erupted from the leader, a raw embodiment of rage and fear, fizzling into a cacophony that threatened to drown out the music we shared, our light pushed to the precipice of suffocation. Your voices are weak. He bellowed, advancing with a malevolent intent. You can't hold back the shadows forever, but where there was music, there had to be a counterbalance, the light pushing back against oppression, just as the night had sought to swallow it whole. Alice. Keep singing. Fight. I shouted, desperation shining through each word, and then, with a resounding clarity, everything shifted, the shadows quivered and peeled away with every note she cast into the air. I felt the weight on my heart lift, a rare and surreal moment where everything stood still, every thought scattered yet clearer than ever. It was in this trembling space that I grasped the hard realization that had danced just beyond reach, a truth tied to our very essence, together. Our past, our stories, they bind us, but they also set us free. I yelled, leaning into our shared music, pushing the envelope of fear aside. The tales we hold, let them be our courage. At that very instant, the first haunting notes of our childhood memories echoed between the shadows, the laughter, the songs, the precious moments wrapped in love coursed through us like a tidal wave. I closed my eyes, letting the poignant memories wash over me, and Alice's voice rose as she poured her heart into that melody, echoing the fervor of all we had lost and all we had fought to reclaim. The shadows writhed even harder, desperate to hold on to their tether, but the ground beneath our feet felt different now, the earth sang beneath us, pulsing alongside the melody. Trust the love. All of it. I cried, beseeching the truth to resonate within Alice, within Ella, within all of us. As we continued to sing together, strength flooded the air, converting fear into a defiant symphony that surged outward, crashing against the darkness encircling us. We are not afraid. This is our home. Our love. Each word rose higher, a crescendo of power that intertwined through the air. The grounded shadows began to tremble, losing their grip on reality, flickering in and out of existence, as if my song, intertwined with Alice's voice, had unlocked a hidden door. The leader's face darkened, twisted in disbelief as if the unraveling of his own darkness was all-consuming. Then, the moment came. I saw clearly the bond we shared, radiant and unbreakable. With one final note, the chanting of our past living and thriving within that space, a blinding light erupted around us. The darkness screamed, unraveling like thread torn from fabric, ripped from reality as Alice's voice pierced through the veil, echoing with a beautiful brilliance that sent ripples of warmth cascading around us, once again holding us together. The darkness imploded, shattering into pieces, scattering into the wind like dust carried off to the farthest corners of the world. I felt the weight in my chest lift completely. The shadows dispersed, leaving only the soft glow of remnants in their wake. With ragged breaths, we stood in the aftermath, surrounded by sparkling light, a gentle warmth washing over us like forgiveness. Alice collapsed against me, teetering on the edge of exhaustion, but the glow in her eyes, pure and radiant, spoke volumes. I didn't think I could sing again," she whispered, encircled by Ella's arms, a surge of familial love wrapping around us all. "But you did," I murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face, the weight lifting with each heartbeat. "You found your voice, not just for yourself, but for us." Ella stepped forward, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "We've all been part of this journey, woven by our experiences, forged in our love. Never forget that." As the moon cast its soft light upon us, a comforting stillness rippled through the park like a gentle caress, washing over the scars of the battle just fought. And in that moment, I felt something settle deep within my soul, a renewed understanding that life, with its darkness and its light, was a tapestry worth celebrating, just like the songs we used to sing. "Let's go home," Alice breathed softly, her voice growing steadier. Together, we took each other's hands, a firm grip of unity forged through hardship, and walked toward the horizon before us, embarking on a new chapter where our voices would harmonize through the echoes of yesterday and the hopes of tomorrow. And just as dawn broke, painting the sky in vibrant hues of warmth and joy, I couldn't help but smile, knowing our hearts had been mended in the music of this moment, fulfilling our promise to create a life where love always triumphed over fear. Together, we stood at the dawn of a new beginning, voices intertwined, ready to embrace the song that had only just begun. And as I looked at my daughter, her laughter carried on the morning air, I couldn't help but think, some songs were never meant to end, they were meant to carry us, to guide us, through every shadow and into every light, forever echoing in the symphony of our lives.